The climate is warming. 2023 was the warmest year on record globally, the 5th warmest nationally, and the 4th warmest locally. New polling data from Yale shows a majority of Americans believe global warming is happening, over 70%. A similar majority also believe global warming will harm future generations. But when asked if it will harm them personally, there is more doubt. Only 46% said yes. The changes that we are seeing now are just a preview of the greater impacts to come. 2023, while the warmest year on record now, will be one of the coolest in your lifetime. There is a greater urgency to do more, to plan, adapt, and mitigate the impacts of climate change. Because if we do nothing, it will only get worse. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to show you the problems for future generations are already here. A sudden shift, how our warming climate impacts you. An ABC 57 First Warning Neighborhood Weather Special Report. Winter 2024 is currently the 2nd warmest winter on record, warmer than last winter, the least snowy in South Bend since 1950. And winter is the fastest warming season, not summer, for much of the country. And not having winter has an impact. ABC 57 meteorologist Dave Caulfield shows us how the lack of cold may pester you more year-round.
During the heart of winter, all we really want across Michiana is a warm, sunny day. But too much warmth in winter can have drawbacks as well. And sometimes you don't appreciate something until it's all gone.
The signs of winter are few and far between at St. Patrick's County Park. The tubing hill holds just enough snow to remind you of what should be.
That's very frustrating.
Michael Slattery with St. Joe County Parks grew up in the Chicago area in the 70s. He says he's a kid of the blizzards of 77 and 78, when sledding was an everyday activity. But he's noticed a trend, less time to enjoy winter every year.
So there have been 2 days where this hill has been in use.
Yes.
Believe it or not, that's actually an improvement from last year, when the warm weather shut down public tubing entirely at St. Pat's.
It's very shocking. You want to be out, you want to be sledding and tubing, and it's not happening.
Slattery says park staff and park goers are going to have to adjust to this new normal, and winter recreation will look different than in years past. That could mean keeping the canoes and kayaks out longer, using trails for hiking instead of skiing, even offering hay rides well into December.
So going from a Christmas sleigh ride to a Christmas hay ride.
It could be.
However, warmer winters are also bringing more bugs along for the ride.
We become susceptible to things that we didn't think we were susceptible to.
Eric Bittinger checks for insects and other pests in plant material for the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. He says warmer winters mean bugs like ticks and mosquitoes are sticking around longer, and some pests like armyworm and bagworm are moving in too, bringing big impacts with them.
Bagworm can strip those plants, can kill them. They're a landscape issue. Armyworm is a crop issue for farmers.
And new invasive species that Michiana has never seen, like the infamous spotted lanternfly, are showing up as well.
We look to Pennsylvania, who has had it for a number of years, and then try and extrapolate that over to what we should see here in Indiana.
However, the warm winters don't always add bugs. The wild temperature swings during the season can also wipe out large swaths of insects. While that might sound appealing at first, Bittinger offers this word of warning.
Insects are a very important part of the ecosystem, so having the changes in the climate and forcing those insects to adapt, it's hard on the insect populations, especially something as important as many of our pollinators.
We know that winters are getting warmer across Michiana, but we don't know exactly what consequences that will bring. And the unknown is the hardest thing for experts and leisure enthusiasts alike, not knowing whether the pests will ever go away and typical wintertime activities will ever return. In St. Joe County, meteorologist Dave Caulfield with ABC 57 News.
Spring means planting time in the Midwest, where agriculture is big business. Did you ever wonder why we're in the Corn Belt? Besides rich soils and the flat land, the climate of the past 100 years regularly offered good growing conditions. But what if that climate changes? More extremes in precipitation, like last June and July, are becoming more frequent. And higher temperatures will be another stressor on crops and farmers picking the right variety of seed to match. ABC 57 meteorologist Coomes shows us the changing planting zones.
Agriculture is one of the most defining traits of many who live in Michiana. And yet, as our earth continues to warm, farms like Geyer Farm here in Bremen, Indiana, that support millions of Americans annually, are having their futures jeopardized by the risk of a warming climate that could have negative impacts as soon as 2050. Because regional agriculture, whether it be gardens or crop farms, depend heavily on annual temperatures, understanding the relationship between the two is critical to ensuring maximum crop yields. Enter the Plant Hardiness Zone map. If you've ever tended to a garden, you've likely seen this map on the back of a seed packet in a local nursery near you. This map can be used to determine regions where different types of perennials will thrive. The hardier a plant is, the lower the temperature it can withstand. For Michiana, we sit in zones 6 and 7, meaning you'll find lots of peonies, daylilies, or Russian sage in people's backyards. But this map is changing. Much of our area has moved from zones 5A to 6B, a zone 5 degrees warmer. And this map will likely change again as average temperatures are forecast to rise another 5 degrees or more by 2050. What does that mean for backyard gardens? I sat down with Crystal Van Pelt, a Purdue Extension educator, to find out more.
A lot of backyard gardeners are starting to hear more about native plants. So these are plants that are raised in our climate, but I would recommend looking down at those more southern climates. So what are people growing in Kentucky or Tennessee? Because those are the climates we're really looking at coming up and creeping up into our area.
Michigan and Indiana are also key corn growing states. We've already seen what extreme weather can do to corn crops, like in June 2015, when above average rainfall destroyed 5% of the corn crop, a $300 million loss. Current projections show the frequency of annual heavy precipitation events will increase by 2050. I talked with Clay Geyer, a Bremen corn farmer who has been in the industry for over 40 years, and what big changes he anticipates in the future because of climate change.
Yeah, the last couple of years we've experienced, more drought, hotter weather, and sometimes more rain all at once, not spread out over a course of time. In the recent years, we've had a lot of tar spot, which looks like little fly specks and stuff on the leaves. These tropical diseases that we're seeing, we're learning more and more every year on how to tackle it and what time to, have it sprayed to hopefully head off any problems down the road.
As plant hardiness zones shift further north, it's not just the excessive heat that farmers are worried about.
The insect pressure from not having the cold winters, I think, is problematic.
It is hard to overstate just how vital agriculture is to Michiana. The Indiana State Department of Agriculture reported that in 2022, Indiana was the 7th largest agricultural exporter in the nation, exporting $7.2 billion, with $1.3 billion of those dollars coming from corn alone. A change in climate could mean a change in crop yields that would have a big impact. From Geyer Farms in Bremen, meteorologist Toomey, ABC 57 News.
Our summers are going to get longer and hotter too. Coming up in 2 minutes, how this could make our water less safe. Plus, the local policy debate going on right now, all about investing in renewable energy. Our area is known for lakes. According to the Indiana DNR, there are more than 250 inland lakes in northern Indiana alone. Many people enjoy the lake life at some point over the summer. You probably don't think much besides, how cold's the water before you jump in? But that is starting to change. ABC 57 meteorologist Amber Twardy explains the growing water woes.
It's the heart of winter, but you wouldn't know by looking at this. Open water when we would usually expect to see ice covering most lakes this time of year. Less ice now makes it easier for local waterways to achieve the warm temperatures that harmful organisms thrive in.
It's the hazard hiding beneath the water surface. Blue-green algae blooming in Michiana lakes during the summer months.
A few years back, about 5 years ago, we have had to close some beaches in Indiana state parks because of very large blooms.
A large bloom can keep you out of the water, but it's not just about an interrupted beach day. Algae blooms have a greater chance of containing toxin-producing bacteria, and those toxins can pose serious health risks, as Jessica Filer, the interpretive naturalist for Potato Creek State Park, has seen firsthand.
It does make you really itchy, it makes your stomach hurt, it can cause diarrhea if you consume it, but even worse, if it progresses, you could have breathing difficulties. However, with our pets who are attracted to eating it, they can even have seizures and die, unfortunately.
But what is causing these algae blooms to blossom?
bloom is much more likely to occur in warmer weather, when it's been very sunny, so there's plenty of sunlight.
Gary Colhep is the Lake Michigan unit manager with Eagle. He says as temperatures warm due to climate change,
Warmer temperatures are going to result in warmer water, which makes it easier for these algae to grow.
you need more than just warm water.
They require nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen to grow.
And with another consequence of a warmer climate, intense rainfall extremes, more water runoff fills our waterways with fertilizers and other materials containing the nutrients necessary for blue-green algae growth.
You might not have given much thought to water quality before, but it's something that's becoming more and more of an annual hazard.
Kayaking through it, we've had reports of people getting dizzy because it can actually release as a gas form and people can actually inhale it. We have had dog death reports. We've had reports of like digestive issues.
And the issues we're already seeing are likely to get worse.
The predictions of what climate change is going to lead to would tend to favor more frequent blooms occurring.
We can help to reduce the amount of nutrients going into the water by avoiding fertilizers and other materials containing phosphorus and nitrogen, but it still isn't a solution to the problem at hand.
There are short-term fixes, but again, they don't last. They're very temporary. And to really make progress, it's more of a long-term thing.
There are ways for us to mitigate some of the factors that contribute to the growth of blue-green algae, but our changing climate isn't something that can be fixed overnight. As temperatures warm, harmful algae blooms will become more problematic, more frequent, and something that we'll need to consider more often before taking a swim to beat the summer heat. In St. Joe County, I'm meteorologist Amber Twardy with ABC 57 News.
I love fall weather, and I know I'm not alone. My favorite part is that sweet spot where I don't have to run my air conditioning or my heat. Since 1970, the average number of heating degree days has dropped significantly. A heating degree day is the measure of heating demand based on temperature. As the climate warms, your heating bill may go down. In contrast, the demand for air conditioning is expected to increase. ABC 57 meteorologist Macy Tetrick shows us if you're in the market for a new HVAC, you may want to invest more in cooling than heating in the future.
Think about the times that you visited the apple orchard or the pumpkin patch in the fall recently. Have you been wearing a fall outfit like this? Or have you been wearing a more summer-like outfit like this? Chances are you've noticed that we're staying warmer for longer each autumn. While the warmer weather may seem nicer for our outdoor activities, it's putting more of a strain on our air conditioning units each fall, and that means more of a strain on the planet and our wallets.
I visited Legacy Heating and Air in Elkhart. That's Dave Thomas, a project manager for the company.
The Cook family, Legacy, has been in business since 1945. So they've seen trends that have gone from the least efficient things you can possibly put into a house to now the most efficient things we've ever seen.
A longer warm season means using our air conditioner more, which makes efficiency more important.
So the one thing we definitely notice is the demand for higher efficiency furnace and air conditioners. You know, we see now that the temperatures are tending to get warmer sooner and stay warmer a little bit longer. So with that, high efficiency air conditioners and high efficiency furnaces have really become the trend.
It's a trend that's also more efficient for your budget.
We kind of tell people like, oh, save money by changing by 2 degrees depending on the season, but that's not really going to cut it anymore.
It doesn't, and it's controversial. I mean, some people swear that it works, other people don't. So by going with higher efficiency equipment, you're going to get a more comfortable benefit from that. And then you're also going to save money because the higher you get in SEER or efficiency ratings, the more money you save as a consumer.
So switching to a high efficiency air conditioning unit will help the planet and your wallet while helping you stay cool. There has to be a catch, right? These higher efficiency systems can cost consumers more upfront than less efficient models. Dave says there are a few things that could help with these higher costs. First, as more people get these systems, prices could drop.
They are becoming more of a demand by people. So they're looking at their carbon footprint. They're looking at, man, how much energy am I really using? Is it dirty energy? Is it clean energy?
Here's another thing to offset sticker shock.
The government is also helping to offset that by offering a tax credit. You can get a $600 tax credit back on your taxes.
And finally, this new system is a long-term investment.
As long as you maintain your system, you can expect to get 16 to 20 years out of it.
As a company, you guys probably experience climate change, you see it happening. Do you believe that you're taking the right steps to help mitigate what's going on with climate change?
I really think we are. There's only so much we can do as individuals, but it starts in our homes. And it starts with paying attention to the type of energy we're using, how much we're using of it.
While there's no reason to run out today to switch to that higher efficiency unit, the next time that your current air conditioning unit is ready to be replaced at the end of its lifespan, Dave and Legacy hope that you'll consider the higher efficiency option.
With all this change on the way, the question of what do we do about it remains. In just a couple of minutes, we'll show you how Michiana communities are debating that right now and why it's so contentious. If we want to lessen the worst impacts of climate change, giant leaps are needed. To even come close to net zero carbon emissions by 2050, where your power comes from matters. The latest data from the Energy Information Administration shows nationally 60% of electricity generated comes from fossil fuels. In Indiana, it's over 80%. To cut carbon, this has to change. To get there will require policy action on a national and local scale. ABC 57's Annie Kate joins us live to show us about the debate currently happening in Marshall County about solar panels and how it's a conversation we all need to have about power policy.
Yeah, Tom, a 2017 Indiana law phases out what's known as net metering, which no longer gives solar customers an even return on the extra electricity they put back into the grid. It's another reason customers might not think it's worth it to invest in solar right now. But the experts I spoke to say, policy aside, the technology will get cheaper and will get better. Still, even as experts maintain optimism for the industry, many simply don't want to have to look at solar panels. To cut emissions in a meaningful way, renewable energy infrastructure needs to grow dramatically. But how that growth happens is a big point of debate, as solar consultant Ryan Lonecker knows all too well.
Indiana counties are passing new zoning ordinance as fast as possible to stop large solar farms, because the majority of their people who live in their county don't want to see them.
Fields of solar panels collecting direct current electricity from the sun's rays, transitioning it to alternating current via an inverter, which then goes back into the power grid. DC-AC, what does that mean?
Direct current, right? Alternating current. So that was Tesla and Edison battled back in the late 1800s. That's a whole history lesson for you. But AC won, right? So in the United States, we use AC electricity for almost everything.
It's a sentiment shared by some in Marshall County, packing this commissioners' meeting, debating over whether large solar companies should be able to lease out farmland.
I can appreciate property owners wanting to have solar on their land, but the issue here also has impact and consequences on those whose property borders these lands.
We have more signed signatures against industrial solar than the winning candidate for mayor of Marshall County.
Lonecker, who sells solar systems for homes, many with the ability to go off-grid, agrees with the sentiments against solar farms.
I think the answer needs to be smaller solar on a smaller scale, and then multiply it.
He says local government can incentivize this.
If you look at Illinois is, I believe they're committed to that vision of more renewable energy, but they are incentivizing the homeowners and the commercial businesses.
Which is what you think Michigan should be doing.
I think Michigan should be doing that. I think Indiana should be doing that.
But some property owners argue it's their right to do as they wish with the land they own. And if they want to lease land for solar arrays, so be it.
We don't want to turn Marshall County into the biggest homeowners association there is by restricting what you can do and what you can't do.
I spoke with Bruce Huber, energy law professor at the University of Notre Dame, and asked him,
if we want to build out solar, should it be on the homeowner to install it on their homes? Should it be on companies to build great big farms?
Yeah.
Should it be a combination of both?
Yeah, great question. So Probably it should be a combination of both. We have a strong tradition in this country of allowing landowners to largely decide what they do with their land.
Huber says it takes a more nuanced, large-scale approach. For the build-out of renewable energy to work, he says, there needs to be some kind of backup power, whether that's hydro, nuclear, or battery.
Bottom line is if you want to electrify cars, you want to electrify homes, you want to sort of shift away from fossil fuels, there's a variety of ways to make electricity, and arriving at the best mix, I think, is going to, as I said before, take some experimentation and some trial and error.
The local debate continues, but it's also happening all over. In fact, in Michigan, lawmakers have a 100% clean energy goal by 2040. And to meet this goal, they voted to be able to override smaller entities when zoning for wind and solar. Now, compare that with Indiana, favoring utility companies and abolishing net metering for customers. Still, municipalities like the city of South Bend continue to offer their own incentives for those looking to go solar. Tom?
Yeah, thank you, Annie. It's a debate we never had before, but we are having now. Well, all the data that comes from weather stations, satellites, and buoys are archived into the climate record, so we can analyze the significance of all the highs and lows, the hottest and the coldest, the wettest and the driest. Research meteorologist Jared Rennie works with this data daily. I asked him one important question. Is it too late? I know this seems like a simple question, but is it too late?
I don't think it's too late. I think, we have to be optimistic about things. We also have to remember that climate change is going to impact people differently. People with air conditioning and good housing and good locations, they might be better off than other people that in lower socioeconomic areas. But it's not too late. There are ways to sort of adapt to this. We can build infrastructure that can help withstand all these types of disasters. From the federal government perspective, we've gotten funding from both the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act to help mitigate and adapt to climate change. So there are ways to think about this, but we have to really think about it over the next 10 to 20 years.
Now you can watch a web-exclusive deep dive into the data with Jared and myself. We talk more about extremes in rainfall, drought, and flooding on abc57.com. Well, thanks for watching this special report, Sudden Shift, how our warming climate impacts you. Beyond the numbers, the climate shift is already happening before our eyes.